Dr. Sarah Chen stifled a yawn as she adjusted the quantum fluctuation monitors in her Beijing laboratory. The early morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across her workstation. Her instruments had been acting strange since dawn, showing readings that defied conventional physics. She blamed it on equipment malfunction at first, until every device in the lab started displaying the same impossible numbers. The first news alert buzzed on her phone at 7:43 a.m. Beijing time. She ignored it, focused on recalibrating her equipment. The second alert came 30 seconds later, followed by a cascade of notifications that made her phone dance across the metal desk. When Dr. Liu burst into her lab, face pale and tablet clutched to his chest, she finally looked up. "Sarah, you need to see this," he whispered, turning the tablet toward her. The live stream showed New York City, where a massive shadow had just blotted out the morning sun. The camera panned upward, revealing a ship that stretched for miles across the sky, its metallic surface reflecting the city lights below. Her instruments hadn't been malfunctioning. They'd been detecting the arrival. "It's not just New York," Dr. Liu said, his voice trembling. "They're appearing everywhere. London, Moscow, Tokyo." He paused, meeting her eyes. "And Beijing." The building's emergency sirens began to wail. Sarah ran to the window, her heart pounding against her ribs. The familiar Beijing skyline had transformed. A colossal vessel hung above the city like a metallic cloud, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed to defy geometry. Her physicist's mind raced, noting details others might miss. The subtle distortion of light around its edges, the strange way it displaced the air. Halfway across the world, Jim Crawford walked through his Kansas cornfield, dew soaking his boots as the sun crept above the horizon. He'd been farming this land for 23 years, following in his father's footsteps. He knew every inch of his fields, every subtle change in soil composition. That's why he noticed immediately when something was wrong. The corn wasn't just wilting, it was dying, turning brown before his eyes in a perfect circular pattern. He followed the dead zone's edge, looking up to find a distant silver disk hovering on the horizon. Though it looked small from here, his farmer's instinct for scale told him it must be massive. His phone hadn't worked all morning. The radio in his truck only produced static, but Jim didn't need the news to tell him something unprecedented was happening. He could read it in his dying crops, in the unnatural silence that had fallen over his fields, in the way the birds had stopped singing. The First Contact Division of the United Nations convened an emergency session at 8:00 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. By 8:05, their carefully crafted protocols lay in ruins. The aliens weren't following any of the expected scenarios. They hadn't attempted communication. They hadn't fired weapons. They simply arrived, positioning themselves above every major population center on Earth, their presence alone an implicit threat that no military could ignore. At 8:15 Greenwich Mean Time, they finally spoke. A single message, broadcast simultaneously in every human language, on every frequency. "Your resistance is unnecessary. Your surrender is inevitable. You have 1 hour to comply." Captain Michael Okonjo crouched behind the remains of an overturned Humvee, his squad maintaining disciplined silence as another Drachnid ship passed overhead. The morning sun had vanished behind a fleet of alien vessels, casting Manila in an artificial twilight. His radio crackled with static, the only sound besides distant explosions and the low hum of alien engines. "Strike command. This is Echo 7, he whispered into his headset, more out of habit than hope. No one had managed consistent communications since the attack began. The old radio set, a backup from a decade ago, spat random bursts of static in response. The coordinated global counterattack had started 20 minutes ago. He'd watched Earth's most advanced weapons, hypersonic missiles, laser-guided bombs, and experimental energy weapons, dissolve harmlessly against the aliens' shields. The Drachnid vessels hadn't even bothered to dodge. Movement at 2 o'clock. Private Santos murmured, her rifle trained on a shimmer in the air. A Drachnid scout ship emerged from behind a skyscraper, its crystalline surface catching the limited light. It looked almost beautiful, like a deadly art piece. Okonjo's radio suddenly screamed to life, emitting a piercing squeal that made everyone flinch. He fumbled for the volume control, but stopped when he noticed something extraordinary. Where the sound waves met the scout ship's shield, ripples of blue light danced across its surface. "Sir," Santos breathed, "look at the shield." The interference pattern spread like cracks in glass, creating a mesmerizing display of light and color. For just a moment, the alien shield seemed to flutter like a soap bubble in the wind. In Beijing, Dr. Sarah Chen nearly knocked over her coffee when the video appeared on her tablet. Someone had captured footage of the Manila incident, and it was spreading across secure military channels. Most dismissed it as an insignificant glitch, but Sarah saw something else, a pattern that matched her quantum fluctuation readings from first contact. "Dr. Liu," she called, fingers flying across her keyboard, "get me everything we have on pre-digital radio frequencies, and find someone who knows about old military communications equipment." The Drachnids responded to Earth's attack with precise strikes against military installations. Bases worldwide vanished in flashes of light that turned steel and concrete to vapor. But in their efficiency, they made their first mistake. They ignored the obsolete facilities, the abandoned bunkers, the mothballed equipment that generals had been too nostalgic to scrap. Captain Okonjo's team took shelter in one such facility, an underground communications center that hadn't seen use since the Cold War. As they powered up the ancient equipment, something unexpected happened. The interference pattern they'd witnessed earlier repeated itself, this time captured by their instruments. "It's not random," Okonjo realized, studying the readouts. "The shields, they're reacting to specific frequencies." He transmitted their findings through the old radio network, a system the Drachnids didn't bother to monitor. Within hours, the data reached Dr. Chen's lab, where she stood surrounded by dusty equipment borrowed from military museums. "They never expected us to go backward to move forward," she whispered, a smile spreading across her face. "And that's exactly why we're going to win." The Drachnid commander, third scale of justice, reviewed the invasion statistics with growing frustration. 17 worlds had fallen to their standard protocols, none lasting more than 3 days. Earth had just entered its 5th day of resistance, and the combat algorithms couldn't explain why. "Another supply depot lost," his subordinate reported, displaying a hologram of their destroyed facility in what humans called Argentina. Local defenders used projectile weapons, primitive metal and chemical propellants. Our sensors didn't register them as threats until impact. In a hidden basement beneath Beijing's old city, Dr. Sarah Chen studied surveillance footage of that same attack. A young resistance fighter, armed with nothing but her grandfather's film camera, had captured something extraordinary. The images showed Drachnid personal shields flickering as they passed through the beam of an ancient radar installation. Their quantum shield technology, Sarah explained to her growing team of international scientists, it's like a one-way mirror designed to block energy weapons. But it wasn't designed to handle analog signals. She pointed to the photographs spread across her makeshift workspace. They built their defenses expecting us to fight like their previous conquests. Across the world, similar discoveries emerged. In London, resistance fighters found that Victorian-era steam whistles disrupted Drachnid communication systems. Australian Aboriginals noticed the aliens couldn't track them when they used traditional smoke signals instead of radio. Each primitive technology revealed another crack in the invaders' supposedly perfect defense. The Drachnid command ship hovered above the Pacific, its crew struggling to understand their tactical readouts. Human resistance cells appeared and vanished like ghosts, using methods that their advanced sensors classified as background noise. Commander Third Scale's mandibles clicked in agitation as another report arrived. "Secondary Command Post 7 has ceased transmission," his tactical officer announced. "No energy weapons detected, no digital signatures, No quantum fluctuations, they just disappeared. What the Drachnids couldn't see was Captain Okonjo's team, moving through the jungle with equipment that belonged in a museum. They carried vacuum tube radios, mechanical rangefinders, and analog compasses. Their weapons were equally simple: spring-powered launchers, chemical explosives, and ballistic projectiles. "They expect us to fight tomorrow's war," Okonjo told his squad as they retreated from the destroyed command post. "So we'll win with yesterday's weapons." Dr. Chen's network grew, connecting scattered resistance cells through technology the Drachnids considered extinct. Morse code clicked across restored telegraph lines. Heliographs flashed messages between mountain peaks. Runners carried mechanical memory drums containing critical data that no quantum scanner could read. In his Kansas field, Jim Crawford made another discovery. The dyeing patterns in his crops didn't just track Drachnid movements, they revealed the aliens' patrol schedules. Nature itself was becoming a tactical display, showing what the invaders thought they were keeping hidden. "They've mastered quantum mechanics," Sarah told her team as new data poured in from around the world. "But they've forgotten the basics. Every complex system has a foundation." She held up one of Crawford's crop analysis photos, and were about to shake theirs to its core. Dr. Sarah Chen's underground laboratory had transformed into a peculiar museum of human innovation. Vacuum tubes hummed alongside crystal radio sets. A Victorian telegraph key clicked steadily in one corner, while a restored World War II radar console glowed dimly in another. Each piece of equipment represented a potential key to humanity's survival. The satellite data from Crawford's farm matches patterns in Sydney, Moscow, and Cairo, she announced to her international team, pointing to a wall covered in agricultural surveys. The dying vegetation created perfect circles around Drachnid patrol routes, invisible to their advanced sensors but clear as day to human eyes. In Kansas, Jim Crawford had turned his barn into an unlikely command center. Local farmers gathered there nightly, comparing crop damage patterns and plotting them on paper maps. Their children, raised on digital screens, learned to use protractors and compasses to calculate alien ship movements. Their changing course, Jim noted, marking a new pattern of withered corn, every 3 days, 17 degrees eastward, like clockwork. Captain Okonjo's team had made similar discoveries in the Philippines. The Drachnids operated with mechanical precision, their patrols following mathematical patterns so complex they thought no one could decode them. But they hadn't counted on human pattern recognition. "They're predictable," Okonjo explained over a secure landline to Beijing. "Advanced, yes, but rigid. They follow their algorithms absolutely." He paused, listening to the static-filled response. "Yes, Dr. Chen, we can use that." A global network emerged, unlike anything the Drachnids could comprehend. Resistance cells coordinated through methods that seemed random to alien sensors. Messages traveled through restored pneumatic tubes in Paris, bounced between neurostations in the Andes, and pulsed through copper wires laid a century ago. Sarah's team worked tirelessly, combining data from these scattered sources. Each piece of antiquated technology revealed another weakness in Drachnid defenses. The aliens' quantum communications couldn't detect simple radio waves. Their advanced sensors ignored mechanical vibrations. Their shield harmonics fluctuated when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. "It's like they skipped steps in their development," Sarah explained to her colleagues. "They went straight from smoke signals to quantum entanglement, never exploring the middle ground. And that middle ground is where we live." In orbit, the Drachnid command ship detected unusual energy patterns across Earth's surface. Their sensors registered thousands of tiny anomalies, each too insignificant to trigger alerts, yet forming a pattern they couldn't decode. "Humans are gathering," Commander Third Scale observed, studying the tactical display. "But their movements make no logical sense." On the ground, humanity's resistance grew stronger. Museum curators became military advisors, teaching soldiers to use equipment from past wars. Radio enthusiasts found themselves training special forces in frequencies the drachnids couldn't detect. Retired engineers emerged from retirement, their outdated knowledge suddenly priceless. Sarah stood in her lab, surrounded by the hum of ancient electronics. On her desk lay the final piece, technical drawings of a device that would combine all their discoveries into one devastating weapon. The blueprints weren't digital. They were drawn by hand on yellowed paper, invisible to drachnid scans, but clear to human eyes. "We're ready," she whispered into a telephone handset, its copper wires carrying her voice across continents. "Tell Captain Okonjo to begin Phase 2. Dawn broke over Earth's scattered cities as thousands of resistance members took their positions. In abandoned radio stations, dusty bomb shelters, and converted farm buildings, humans waited with equipment older than their grandparents. Each piece had been carefully tuned to Dr. Chen's specifications, calibrated to emit precise frequencies that would turn the drachnid's superior technology against them. "Remember," Sarah's voice crackled through a restored military channel, "absolute synchronization is essential. One mistimmed signal could alert them to our plan." She checked her watch, a mechanical timepiece chosen because it wouldn't be affected by drachnid interference. 20 minutes to execution. In Manila, Captain Okonjo positioned his team around a massive radio transmission tower. They'd spent weeks restoring it, replacing modern components with vacuum tubes and analog circuitry. Similar teams surrounded identical towers worldwide, each chosen for its strategic position relative to drachnid patrol routes. "Calibration complete," his engineer reported, adjusting a bank of pristine vacuum tubes salvaged from a military storage facility. Frequency matched to Beijing's specifications. Above them, drachnid ships continued their regular patrols, their sensors detecting nothing unusual about the ancient equipment below. Their quantum scanners swept for energy weapons, digital signals, and advanced technology, but remained blind to the web of simple radio waves spreading across the planet. Jim Crawford started his tractor, its diesel engine powering a jury-rigged generator that would supply electricity to 3 transmission stations. Across his fields, the patterns of dead crops had served their purpose, helping predict exactly where the alien ships would be when the signal launched. 5 minutes, Sarah announced through the global network. She stood in her underground lab, surrounded by equipment that belonged in a history museum. All stations sound off. One by one, resistance cells reported ready. From the Australian outback to the Scottish Highlands, humans prepared to broadcast on frequencies the drachnids had dismissed as irrelevant centuries ago. The first drachnid ship noticed something wrong 3 minutes before the scheduled transmission. Its shield harmonics fluctuated slightly as it passed through an intersection of test signals. The anomaly was logged but classified as insignificant, exactly as Sarah had predicted. 60 seconds, she breathed, her hand hovering over the master switch. "May the ghosts of Edison, Tesla, and Marconi smile upon us." At precisely 700 hours GMT, humanity struck back. Thousands of radio transmitters activated simultaneously, each broadcasting a carefully calculated frequency. The signals merged and amplified, creating a web of electromagnetic energy that the drachnids couldn't detect until it was too late. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Shield generators overloaded as conflicting frequencies created cascading failures throughout their systems. Smaller ships lost power first, their crystalline hulls darkening as they dropped from formation. Larger vessels struggled to maintain altitude as their quantum field generators encountered frequencies they were never designed to handle. "It's working," Okonjo shouted, watching a drachnid scout ship crash into Manila Bay. All stations maintained transmission. In her command center, Sarah allowed herself a small smile as reports flooded in from around the world. "Next phase," she ordered. "Begin frequency modulation. Let's show them what human ingenuity can really do." The drachnid response came with terrifying precision. As their ships retreated to higher orbit, they launched a coordinated strike against Earth's power infrastructure. Electrical grids worldwide went dark as transformer stations exploded in cascades of blue sparks. Modern cities fell silent, their digital networks crashing simultaneously. Commander Third Scale watched with satisfaction as human civilization seemed to crumble. Their primitive weapons require power, he transmitted to the fleet. Without their electrical grid, they will surrender. But in the darkness, humanity proved once again why they remained unconquered. In Beijing's underground lab, Sarah's equipment hummed steadily, powered by an array of bicycle generators where graduate students took turns pedaling in shifts. "They think we need modern infrastructure," she said, adjusting a dial on her vintage radio set. "They don't understand human adaptability." Across Kansas, farmers like Jim Crawford had already prepared for this moment. Their barns housed diesel generators, solar panels, and wind turbines, all modified to power the Resistance's radio equipment. The dying crops had hidden another secret. Beneath them lay cables connected to emergency power systems, invisible to Drachnid's scans. "Grids down, but we're still broadcasting," Crawford reported through the analog network. All regional stations operating at full capacity. Captain Okonjo's team moved through Manila's darkened streets with practiced efficiency. Their target, a Drachnid ground base established after the morning's battle. Intelligence suggested it contained technical data crucial to Dr. Chen's research. "They'll expect us to be blind without power," Okonjo whispered to his squad. They carried night vision goggles from the 1960s, simple light amplification technology that the Drachnids didn't register as a threat. But sometimes the old ways work better. The alien base rose before them, its quantum shields shimming with otherworldly energy. But Sarah's discovery had revealed their weakness. The shields filtered by technology level, not effectiveness. Ancient equipment passed through as if the barriers didn't exist. "Remember," Okonjo instructed, "no modern weapons. Mechanical triggers only." His team carried crossbows, spring-powered launchers, and other weapons that required no electronics to function. Inside her converted warehouse-turned-resistance hub, Sarah coordinated with teams worldwide. Car batteries powered essential equipment. Solar-charged power banks kept communication lines open. In Paris, the Resistance even restored an old water wheel to generate electricity. "The Drachnids base their strategy on how they think we should fight," she explained to her international colleagues through a hardline phone system. "They never considered we might choose not to use our most advanced technology." Okonjo's team breached the alien facility using tactics that would have been familiar to soldiers a century ago. Their simple weapons confused Drachnid security systems designed to detect energy signatures and digital threats. Within minutes, they reached the central data core. "Package secured," Okonjo reported through his analog radio. "You were right, Dr. Chen. They store their technical data on crystalline matrices, completely unhackable by modern computers, but the patterns are visible to the human eye." Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before focusing on the next phase. "Bring it to Beijing," she instructed. "And Captain, hurry. What I'm seeing in these transmissions suggests we don't have much time before they realize their mistake." Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the crystalline matrix Captain Okonjo's team had recovered, its complex patterns revealing secrets the Drachnids never intended humans to understand. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, but adrenaline kept her focused as pieces of the puzzle finally clicked into place. Their entire technology, she explained to her assembled team, relies on quantum fields that exist slightly out of phase with normal space-time. That's why our primitive weapons can pass through their shields. She projected a diagram onto the wall using an old overhead projector. But there's something they overlooked, something massive. In Manila, Captain Okonjo received Sarah's transmission through his restored radio set. "Earth's magnetic field," he questioned, making sure he'd heard correctly. "The entire planet." "Exactly," Sarah confirmed, her voice carrying excitement despite the static. The Drachnids chose our planet because its magnetic field properties matched their other conquered worlds, but they never considered we might use that field against them. Jim Crawford's agricultural data had provided the final piece of evidence. The patterns of dying crops didn't just track Drachnid movements. They revealed how alien ships interacted with Earth's natural electromagnetic field. Every landing zone, every patrol route had been unconsciously positioned to take advantage of the planet's magnetic currents. They're not just using our atmosphere, Sarah continued. They're riding our planet's magnetic field lines like surfers on waves, and we can turn those waves into a tsunami. In orbit, Commander Third Scale detected unusual fluctuations in his ship's quantum sensors. Earth's magnetic field was showing signs of disturbance, but his scientists assured him it was within normal parameters for a developing world. Their resistance grows weaker, he announced to his fleet. Prepare for the final assault. But beneath the surface, humanity was far from defeated. Sarah's team had distributed precise calculations to resistance cells worldwide. Each group began positioning their radio equipment at specific points along Earth's magnetic ley lines, places where the planet's natural energy field was strongest. The theory is simple, Sarah explained to her international colleagues. Our radio waves, properly timed and positioned, will create a resonance effect with Earth's magnetic field. The planet itself will amplify our signal to a level their shields can't handle. Captain Okonjo's teams worked through the night, moving equipment into position. In Kansas, Crawford coordinated with other farmers to create a network of transmission stations spanning the American heartland. Similar preparations took place on every continent. We'll only get one chance, Sarah warned. When we activate the signal, the Drachnids will detect the magnetic disturbance. They'll know something's wrong, but by their own data, what we're attempting should be impossible. Around the world, resistance members made final adjustments to their equipment. The plan required more precise timing than their previous attack, not just synchronizing with each other, but with the very pulse of Earth itself. Sarah studied the final readouts, checking and rechecking her calculations. The crystalline matrix had revealed the exact frequencies needed to transform the Drachnids' greatest advantage into their fatal weakness. Now everything depended on humanity's ability to work together on a scale never before attempted. All stations, she broadcast through the analog network, prepare for planetary synchronization. We're about to show them why Earth will never be conquered. Earth's magnetic field rippled with invisible energy as thousands of resistance stations powered up their equipment. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the synchronized countdown on her mechanical chronometer. Every second brought them closer to humanity's final stand. Magnetic field oscillation at 18% above normal, her assistant reported, reading from analog gauges. Drachnid ships are adjusting their positions, just as you predicted. In orbit, Commander Third Scale observed the strange fluctuations with growing concern. His ship's quantum sensors detected something building within Earth's magnetic field, a phenomenon that defied their scientific understanding. Energy signature expanding, his science officer reported. Pattern matches no known weapons profile. The officer's mandibles clicked in confusion. Sir, they appear to be using their planet's magnetic field as some kind of amplification device. Impossible, Third Scale dismissed. Their technology level cannot manipulate planetary fields. Yet doubt crept into his voice as new readings appeared on his displays. Captain Okonjo positioned his final transmission unit in the Philippines, completing the Asian sector of their global network. Manila station ready, he reported through the analog channel. Similar confirmations echoed from resistance cells worldwide. In Kansas, Jim Crawford started his backup generators as storm clouds gathered overhead. The building electromagnetic pulse made the hair on his arms stand up. Heartland stations configured and ready, he transmitted, field strength increasing. Sarah took a deep breath as the final seconds approached. Everything they'd learned, the radio interference, the crop patterns, the crystalline matrix data, had led to this moment. Begin transmission on my mark, she broadcast worldwide. At exactly noon GMT, humanity acted as one. Thousands of radio transmitters activated simultaneously, each broadcasting precise frequencies through Earth's magnetic field lines. The planet itself became their ally, its natural electromagnetic field amplifying their signal far beyond anything the Drachnids thought possible. The effect was instantaneous and overwhelming. Drachnid ships writhed in space as their quantum field generators encountered frequencies that turned their own technology against them. Shields failed, navigation systems crashed, communication networks dissolved into chaos. Full power. Sarah commanded as the first Drachnid ships began falling from orbit. Don't let them adapt. The Resistance poured everything they had into their transmitters. Car batteries drained, generators roared, bicycle-powered dynamos spun furiously. Earth's magnetic field pulsed with unprecedented energy, creating a planetary defense grid that no quantum technology could penetrate. Commander Third Scale watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet crumbled. How? He transmitted on all frequencies. How did primitives master planetary field manipulation? We didn't master it. Sarah responded through the old radio network. We worked with it. That's something your empire never understood. The Drachnid fleet retreated in disarray, their supposedly invincible technology rendered useless by Earth's natural defenses combined with human ingenuity. As the last ships disappeared into hyperspace, Sarah received a final transmission from their commander. Earth is hereby classified as unconquerable, Third Scale announced. Not for your weapons, but for your impossible ability to turn weakness into strength, the Empire will not return. In the silence that followed, humanity began to rebuild. They emerged stronger, more united, and with a profound appreciation for both their past and their potential. Earth's first victory against alien invasion hadn't come from advanced technology, but from remembering that true progress meant understanding both where you came from and where you were going. Sarah looked at her team of international scientists, engineers, and volunteers. Now she smiled. Let's start planning how we'll take the fight to them.